The movie begins in the isolated and rocky mountains of Scotland, where a group of climbers faces one of the region's steep cliffs. Rob leads the climb and warns that the section above is safe. Just below him are Allison and Ed, who take a break before proceeding. Ed takes the opportunity to take a photo of Allison and then asks her to take one of him as well. The two get distracted for a few moments watching a golden eagle soaring overhead, while Rob at the top begins to pull up the ropes. Suddenly, one of the ropes gets entangled around Ed's leg, causing both of them to fall and leaving them hanging, held only by their gear. Ed panics, scared of falling, while Allison tries to calm him down, but her words do not seem to have an effect. Rob quickly descends the mountain face to help his friends, who are in shock after the incident. He reaches them, helps Ed back up safely, and shortly after, the trio resumes climbing. When they finally reach the top, they stop to rest and recover from the scare. Later on during the hike, Ed continues to grumble, and Rob advises him to keep calm, saying that what he is feeling is just adrenaline. Allison, still shaken, lectures Ed, saying that if he wants to climb with her again, he needs to stop with the distractions because one mistake can be fatal, and no one would come to rescue them at that height. The group continues until they reunite with the other two members of the expedition, a couple named Alex and Jenny. Jenny comments that they got the master suite and asks if everything is okay, to which Rob jokes that he wasn't going to share a bed with Ed anyway. Allison goes into the cabin first, and Rob introduces Ed to the two newcomers. Inside the lodge, Ed complains about a strange smell in the environment, and Rob opens the window to ventilate. Ed sarcastically suggests that Rob should bury his relatives in the backyard next time. Noticing that the window is broken, Rob goes to Allison, who finds 2 bottles of whiskey. Later, Allison checks the injury she sustained during the climbing incident. Ed tries to make a call, but there is no cell phone signal in the area. Allison still shows signs of nervousness, and while she is in the shower, flashes of the accident return to her mind. During the night, the group holds a small party with songs and drinking. They play an improvised game, but Jenny, Rob, and Allison soon give up, leaving only Ed and Alex. Ed bets one of his chips, and Alex, confident, bets everything. Soon, Alex lays down 3 kings, suggesting that he has won, but Ed surprises him and wins. Alex goes silent for a moment. Rob breaks the tension, and Alex soon throws a bill on the table. When Ed picks it up and sees that it is Scottish money, he is disappointed. Alex seems to dislike the young man's comment and tries to retort, but his wife stops him, and the two go to their room. While the couple engages in their libidinous acts, the trio remains at the table drinking. Rob looks at a picture on the wall depicting the nearby mountains. Allison jokes with a scared expression, saying that 70 people have died there. She continues saying that if someone falls from the summit, it will take 30 seconds to reach the ground. The trio starts a deep conversation, saying that this is the time needed to pray to the Lord. Ed is somewhat skeptical about religion, and Allison adds that they will need to pray even more. Ed gets startled by a noise coming from outside and looks at the mountain, shrouded in dense, dark mist. Rob comments that tomorrow will be a better day. The next day, the group prepares for a new journey. Rob explains the weather situation, and Allison warns him once again not to go to the west side of the mountain. Rob asks if Jenny prepared some snacks for the trip, and she replies that she did. Ed continues complaining, saying it has to be fish and bread. Shortly after, the group is in a forest taking a break for snacks. Ed comments that he would rather eat his own feces than that. Alex, already impatient with the kid, says that no one will stop him if he wants to try. Jenny says he reminds her of her 2-year-old daughter, and Rob tells them they will leave in 2 minutes. Meanwhile, Jenny is enchanted by the scenery. Ed walks away from the group to relieve himself and stops when he begins to hear voices coming from the forest. With a bad feeling, Ed warns the rest of the group, who seem uninterested. Rob does not believe Ed's words, but he insists that he is serious. Allison decides to go check, and Ed asks her to stay quiet and listen. He asks if she heard anything, and she replies that she did, but it could just be an animal. Ed says he is not sure about that. It could be a person, and Allison quickly calls the rest of the group, who quickly joins them. Allison asks everyone to listen, and soon they also confirm that they have heard something. Allison walks through the forest while continuing to hear the voices until the group reaches a spot where they find a breathing tube. Rob says that someone is down there and runs to get his backpack. Allison approaches the tube and asks if anyone is there, and soon a little girl's voice in another language responds. Rob quickly returns with his backpack and brings some shovels. He asks if the girl can hear him, but no one there understands her language. Ed and Rob start digging the area, while Alex grabs a piece of wood, bracing for the worst. Soon, they uncover a wooden structure and lift the lid, revealing a little girl trapped inside the hole. Everyone is shocked by the scene. Rob tries to calm the girl, who is extremely nervous, and she ends up biting his hand. Jenny tries to get closer and climbs into the hole. The girl decides to trust her. Alex helps pull her out, and they offer her a little water. Jenny asks the girl's name, which she responds to with something hard to understand. She says Anna, but since she is speaking another language, the group does not fully comprehend at first. Ed comments that she could be Croatian. The group asks if he can translate, but Ed says he only learned obscene words. Allison observes that whoever put the girl there did not want her to die. In a moment of nervousness, Alex suggests that the group leave as soon as possible before those responsible come back. Jenny interrupts and says that the girl is now their responsibility, and they need to seek help. Rob unfolds the map and shows that the nearest village is 23 miles away. Alex asks if they can use a cell phone to call for help, but Rob replies that there is no signal there. Rob comments that they will not be able to use a cell phone until they reach the village, approximately 43 kilometers from there. Alex quickly retorts that he had said it was only 23 kilometers, but Rob explains that there is another, faster route, and that they are only 3 kilometers from the so-called Devil's Perch. Jenny asks what that is, and Rob explains that it is a steep cliff with a vertical drop of 150 meters, but he assures them that after they get to the bottom, it will only be 6 kilometers to the village. Alex questions how they will lower a child down such a high cliff, but Rob says that only 2 of them will rappel down to get help from below. He invites Allison to go with him, and although she seems frightened because of the previous accident, she eventually agrees. Rob hands the map to Alex and gives instructions on which way to go. Then he and Allison start their run through the dense forest. They soon arrive at one of the cliffs and prepare to descend. Rob asks Allison to go first. She is visibly nervous but begins the descent. During the descent, she looks down, panics, and warns that she is running out of rope. Rob insists and says she can do it. Even with difficulty, Allison tries to remain calm while Rob prepares to descend. However, as soon as he begins his descent, Rob's rope suddenly breaks, causing him to fall to the ground. Allison witnesses the scene completely in shock, paralyzed at the top of the cliff as she watches Rob's lifeless body below. Back with the rest of the group continuing through the forest, Alex suggests carrying the girl to speed up their pace, but as soon as he tries to grab her, she struggles and runs away. Ed runs after her, manages to catch up to her, and holds her tight. She gets scared and runs straight into Jenny's arms. Then they decide on the best way to continue down the cliff with the girl. Jenny offers to go down with her, but Alex insists that it is a terrible idea. In the end, they agree to continue at the little girl's pace. Back to Allison, she is trying to descend smoothly down the cliff, now without any rope, which seems an impossible challenge. A rock slides down from above, almost hitting her, until another one manages to strike her, making her plummet down onto trees and branches and then into the nearby river. Allison sinks deep into the river, but soon manages to swim back to the surface, heading towards the banks, where she finds Rob's body and rests for a while beside him. She then has a nightmare where she is in a place similar to where the little girl was, soon waking up and begins to bang on the walls, desperate, screaming for help through the breathing tube. But her voice echoes alone through the tense forest, as her friends are, already far away. She awakens disoriented, still next to Rob's body, and upon touching his body, discovers the ropes and realizes it was not an accident. Meanwhile, the rest of the group continues their journey, and we see 2 men at the top of the mountain observing the group. They prepare to shoot, but one of them says they are too far away and prefers not to take the risk. Allison runs through the forest, now aware of the danger, trying to reunite with her friends. The 2 kidnappers soon reach another location, but are surprised by 2 men who suddenly appear. Other kidnappers, who say that the hunting season is already over. One warns that he will have to report them, and the other asks why they are using such a powerful weapon, stating that those guns are not for hunting animals. When one of the first kidnappers calls him an idiot, the newcomer pulls out a knife and kills him. The other begs for his life, but they force him to jump off the cliff, resulting in his death. Meanwhile, the two newcomers steal their weapons. Then we see a trio in a car composed of Andy, Darko, and a third man whose name is not revealed. They are not killers but have been hired by Anna's father to find her and are headed to the same village the group is trying to reach. Allison soon manages to catch up with the group and tries to warn them of the danger, but the noise of the river is too loud and they cannot hear. So she points with her hands for them to meet at the river crossing, and Ed understands the message. He asks about Rob, and with a sad expression, she only gestures with her hand, and everyone understands. As the camera focuses on the little girl, we see her face covered in blood. Jenny is killed and drags the girl with her into the river, and the girl is swept away by the current. Alex and Ed climb to the higher part of the mountain while the two kidnappers on the other side continue shooting, and everyone runs for their lives. Ed and Alex advance, but Allison is still on the other side. The little girl breaks away from Jenny and swims to the surface. One of the kidnappers aims at Allison and shoots, making her fall into the river. Ed stops and shouts for her just as a shot nearly hits him. They keep running and the gunfire does not cease. Allison decides to get rid of her backpack and swims towards the little girl. They go down a small waterfall, and Allison ends up losing Anna during the descent. She quickly dives to search for her, but finds Jenny's lifeless body with a shot in the eye, and comes back to the surface. She dives once more and manages to find Anna at the bottom, bringing her to the riverbank. The girl is unconscious, but still alive. Then Allison quickly administers first aid, and the little girl regains consciousness. The kidnappers soon approach and shoot, but miss, and while reloading their weapons, one of the other kidnappers signals for Allison to run. Anna runs away first and hides behind some rocks, while Allison reunites with Alex. They shout for Ed and Anna, but get no response. Anna soon sees one of the kidnappers and stays quiet, when Ed arrives and covers her mouth, asking her to stay silent. Ed sneaks slowly with the little girl when a bird gives away their position. The man soon shoots and calls for his companion. The two aim at Ed as he runs with Anna, but he manages to lose them. Ed and Anna end up tripping and rolling down a slope. Ed rolls a lot, hitting several things until colliding with a log and injuring his leg. Soon they find Allison and Alex. They watch as the killers approach, and Allison tells them to get out of there quickly. Alex comments that Ed cannot run, and soon declares that the men do not want them, only Anna. Alex decides to leave the hiding place with some of Anna's clothes to try to distract them. They quickly put him in their sights and hit him with a shot. But Alex, with great willpower, manages to get up, but takes another shot to the leg. As he crawls on the ground, he remembers Jenny and suffers one more gunshot. The killers approach his body, say that his bravery was worthless, and end Alex's life. Meanwhile, we return to the trio in the car and discover that they are also after Anna. Ed descends the cliff, despite his injured leg, and with much difficulty manages to reach the bottom. Anna is too scared to try to descend, but Allison explains that it is their only way out. She manages to convince her, and soon she reaches the ground. Then, Allison descends as well. Ed takes a brief pause and states that they cannot stay there waiting. He asserts that he will only delay the group and decides to stay. Ed begins to believe in Alex's theory about the girl. He says it is possible that they have compromised their chances of a police rescue, and if she dies, the blame will be on them. But Allison asks him to look at her and questions whether he would have the courage to leave her there to die. He replies that he would not. Meanwhile, the killers talk about another victim they lost to the winter and conspire to try to pressure the girl's family. The killers converse with each other and decide to do it their way. Meanwhile, Darko and the others listen to the message sent by the kidnappers. Then we discover that they are bounty hunters. Andy gives instructions for the meeting with the kidnappers and warns Darko to be careful, as the men seem to be professionals. Darko says they need to bring the girl back and asks if Andy knows the reputation of her father. He replies that yes, he knows the fame of the man, an extremely cruel Serbian mercenary. The trio then begins to discuss the plan on how to capture the kidnappers alive without harming the girl. Back with the trio, as they are leaving the forest, Allison sees a car passing by and calls for help, but the vehicle goes straight on. During the night, they finally reach a town. They soon enter the local police station, while a festival is happening in the town. The bounty hunters are already at the location, waiting for the meeting with the kidnappers. At the police station, the officer informs them that he will take them to give a statement and then for medical treatment. He then returns, saying he could not contact another unit. Ed, furious, demands that he try another post, but the officer states that he has already done that. He then offers chocolate cake to Anna. In the bar, Darko meets one of the kidnappers. The man asks if he brought the money. Darko insists that he first bring the girl, but the kidnapper states that it will be his way and that he wants the money first. Darko refuses the plan, insisting that things will happen on his terms. The kidnapper starts telling a story about another boy he had kidnapped, and how the boy's parents tried to trick them by putting newspapers in the suitcase. He states that he ended up killing the boy. Darko, however, is not intimidated by the story. At the police station, the trio is already impatient with the delay. The officer says he will call another colleague, and Ed, suspicious, comments to Allison that he thinks the officer may be holding them until the kidnappers arrive. Allison wants to wait a bit longer, but Ed does not want to take the risk. When they are about to leave, the officer returns and blocks their exit, saying that they can only go if they leave the girl behind. Ed quickly grabs a knife to defend himself. While the officer asks for calm, a shot is fired, hitting the cup he was holding and then his body. The sound of the gunfire mixes with the festival fireworks. The trio ducks to try to escape as the shooter is in a nearby building. He begins shooting at the lights to leave everything in the dark. The injured officer calls for backup, but we see that his colleague is already dead inside the police car. Ed asks if there is a back exit, and the officer confirms, saying they need the keys. When Ed asks where they are, the officer is shot in the head. Ed grabs the keys from the body and tells the girls to follow him. They crawl through the police station and manage to escape through the back door. As they blend into the crowd, the shooter steals a pig mask to disguise himself. In the bar, Darko continues negotiating with the kidnapper and states that he will not see anything until they show that the girl is alive. While Ed, Allison, and Anna run through the town, they encounter the killer who pulls out a gun, but they hide among the people. In an alley, one of the rescuers shoots Ed, but is soon killed by the kidnapper, who tries to shoot Allison, forcing her to run away. The man finishes off the rescuer and then kills Ed. Anna gets lost in the crowd, but is soon found by Allison. One of the bounty hunters warns Darko that the kidnappers do not have the girl. Darko reacts by breaking a glass in the kidnapper's face, and the two start fighting. They both fall through the bar window, and Andy arrives, shooting at the man, but he manages to escape with the money. Andy finds his wounded partner, who asks for a gun to end his suffering. Allison and Anna knock on several doors asking for help, but no one answers. The killer approaches, and they reach a house where a man opens the door and lets them in. The killer also enters, killing the resident. Allison tries to break down the back door, while the man locks the main entrance. A fire begins to spread quickly throughout the house. The criminal arrives where Allison and Anna are. Desperate, Allison throws objects at him. The two begin a struggle, but she is at a disadvantage for being weaker. When he is about to kill her, Anna throws a cup at him and tries to escape, but the door is locked. Allison manages to break another cup in the man's face and also escapes. They run to one of the rooms and lock the door. Anna hides under the bed. Unfortunately, the man arrives, and Allison starts another fight. With the house on fire and Allison unconscious, the man lifts the bed and stares at Anna. Fortunately, Allison wakes up and quickly breaks a jar on the enemy's head and then pushes him out of the second-floor window, killing him with the fall. Allison throws Anna out the window to save her, but cannot escape due to her injuries. She ends up fainting from the smoke. Fortunately, the firefighters arrive sometime later, rescue Anna, and take Allison to the hospital. Meanwhile, the other kidnapper tries to flee in a car. He hears a phone ringing, and suddenly Andy drags him out and starts beating him. Darko watches from afar and leaves. Then they go to meet Anna's father. Andy suspects that Darko is plotting something, but he asks for trust and tells him to wait in the car. The girl's father's security take the kidnapper from the trunk. The man tries to negotiate with Anna's father, but he wants no conversation and tells his guards to get rid of him. He thanks Andy for saving his daughter. Then Andy leaves. Inside the ambulance, Allison and Anna head to the hospital. Allison, remembering the moments they lived, begins to cry, lamenting all the losses.